What if, for the past 400 years, we've misunderstood our own heart, and the true engine of life has been somewhere else entirely? Get ready to see the human body in a way you were never taught. I am Ethan Marshall, a 60-year-old physician living and working in the United States, with more than 3 decades dedicated to studying human health. And today, I'd like to begin with something that may startle you. For over 400 years, we may have misunderstood our own bodies, misunderstood what everyone assumes they already know, whether the heart is truly the engine that drives life. If you want more content that gets to the root of health like this, please subscribe, like, and share the video so I can continue creating valuable insights for our community. Now let me take you back to the central question: why do we believe the heart is the center of life? And is that belief actually accurate according to what we've been taught? Throughout my career, I've met countless patients, and almost all of them believe the heart is a powerful pump, tirelessly pushing blood through tens of thousands of kilometers of blood vessels. But the more I observed and the more questions I asked, the more I realized a major paradox. The size and structure of the heart simply do not match the monumental task we've attributed to it. I still remember a late afternoon many years ago when an elderly patient asked me, "If the heart really has to pump that forcefully, doctor, how many years do you think it could keep that up?" A seemingly simple question, but it made me pause for a long moment. Because when you truly study the anatomy, you see the heart behaves more like a coordinator, opening and closing valves, maintaining orderly flow, rather than generating a massive driving force. So why has the belief that the heart is the engine persisted for centuries? Partly because we've never revisited the foundational question, and partly because the rising rates of cardiovascular disease make people assume the heart must be responsible for everything. According to recent statistics, heart disease takes more than 18 million lives globally each year. These numbers create fear, but they also hide an important truth. Many times the heart is not the culprit, it is the victim. In my examinations, I meet people with arrhythmias, chest tightness, or fatigue of the heart. But upon deeper evaluation, the root cause often lies in weak lungs or a compressed diaphragm that increases pressure within the chest. When pressure rises, the heart is forced to contract harder, creating the illusion that it is the primary driving force. And so, generation after generation, the belief persists. What I want you to understand is this: it is entirely possible that the heart has never functioned as a true pump, but has simply been adapting to distortions in the way we live, breathe, and care for our bodies. So what do you think has caused this misunderstanding to persist for so long? A. Because textbooks taught it that way, so no one questioned it. B. Because heart-related symptoms make us quick to blame the heart. Choose A or B and comment below. I want to know how you see this issue. The counter-argument to the idea that the heart is the primary engine of circulation must be presented based on anatomical structure, pressure dynamics, and clinical physiology, clarifying the distinction between regulatory function and generative force. Anatomically, the heart is a muscular structure with chambers and valves whose main role is to receive returning blood, enable one-way flow, and open or close according to pressure differences. The valves act like regulators, preventing backflow and maintaining direction rather than generating an independent driving force. The actual driving mechanism depends on pressure gradients within the thoracic cavity, the blood vessels, and the peripheral system. Changes in pressure due to chest movement, particularly inhalation, exhalation, and diaphragm expansion, create suction and propulsion forces that support blood movement through the veins and microcirculation. When examining transmural pressure and the respiratory pump, we see that inhalation reduces thoracic pressure, increasing venous return to the right heart, while exhalation helps push blood into the pulmonary and systemic circulation. Thus, the respiratory cycle creates a continuous, rhythmic dynamic that works alongside the heart rather than being replaced by it. Pathological states reinforce this. When lung function is impaired, diaphragm motion is restricted, or thoracic compression occurs. Pressure gradients weaken, venous return decreases, and microcirculation falters, forcing the ventricles to contract harder as compensation. Clinically, this appears as heart overload, though the true cause lies in impaired respiratory pressure and peripheral congestion. Moreover, the extensive cross-sectional area of the microvascular network requires localized regulation, as the heart alone cannot generate uniform pressure across the entire system. Circulation depends on vascular tone, local resistance, and fluid dynamics. Therefore, labeling the heart as a pump in the mechanical sense is misleading. An effective circulatory system emerges from the coordination of respiratory pressure, diaphragm dynamics, microvascular function, and valve regulation. Viewing the heart as a regulator while recognizing respiration and pressure structures as the true source of driving force helps reorient diagnostic and therapeutic approaches toward restoring respiratory function, reducing thoracic compression, and improving peripheral conditions rather than blaming the heart alone. The theory that the lungs are the true engine of life is grounded in the internal pressure mechanisms of respiration and the role of breath in maintaining the constant natural movement of blood. Each inhalation and exhalation produces significant pressure shifts within the thoracic cavity. Reduced pressure during inhalation not only expands the lungs for gas exchange, but also draws blood back toward the heart, while exhalation, especially active exhalation, helps move blood into adjacent compartments and through the arterial and venous systems. Thus, respiratory pressure becomes a natural driving force that operates rhythmically and contributes to circulation as significantly as the heart's regulatory function. This physiological effect is reinforced by the lung's microscopic structure. Millions of alveoli creating a vast surface area that supports efficient gas exchange and maintains blood lightness, enabling easier passage through narrow capillaries. When breathing is deep and stable, pressure oscillations are strong and consistent, sustaining circulation even when the heart primarily guides direction and valve timing. Breath thereby forms the foundation of the body's biological rhythm. Both ancient and modern texts emphasize this central role of breath. In many ancient manuscripts, breath is described as the pure energy that nourishes blood and cells. This mirrors modern knowledge that most toxins are removed through respiration. When breath is unrestricted, diaphragm movement creates powerful pressure waves that support blood and lymph flow, optimize metabolic exchange, and maintain tissue clarity. Conversely, shallow breathing, often due to stress or limited chest expansion, reduces the respiratory pump's efficiency, slowing circulation and allowing gas, fluid, and waste accumulation in tissues, potentially progressing into metabolic disorders. Thus, the theory that the lungs are the body's engine highlights not only respiratory pressure, but also breath's role as the regulator of biological rhythm. When natural, deep, rhythmic breathing is restored, circulation becomes more efficient, blood is evenly distributed, cells receive adequate nutrients, and detoxification processes remain continuous. From this viewpoint, the lungs are not merely organs of gas exchange, but the central regulators of vital energy, essential for maintaining the body's harmonious and uninterrupted function. The body's internal cleansing system, centered on the colon, diaphragm, and lungs, plays a decisive role in maintaining pressure balance, fluid flow, and blood quality. When these organs weaken, the entire circulatory system must compensate, and this chain reaction is the underlying cause of many cardiorespiratory disorders. Mechanically, a congested colon pulls on the diaphragm, altering its position and range of motion, reducing chest expansion and distorting the pressure gradients needed for venous return. The result is diminished venous suction, slower return to the heart, and underperfused peripheral capillary beds, forcing the circulatory system to adjust by increasing vascular tone or heart rate. Biochemically, accumulated mucus and decomposition byproducts in the gut can be reabsorbed, triggering systemic inflammation, increasing plasma viscosity, and reducing red blood cell flexibility. Thicker blood heightens microvascular resistance, requiring greater effort from both the lungs and heart to maintain oxygen delivery. Neurologically, impaired gut function activates reflex pathways through the enteric plexus and vagus nerve, disrupting respiratory rhythm and peripheral vascular tone. Thus, dysfunction in the digestive tract can alter respiratory and circulatory function at a distance. Additionally, the lymphatic system, responsible for transporting cellular waste, relies heavily on respiratory-driven mechanical oscillation. When breath amplitude decreases due to abdominal congestion, lymph flow stagnates, leading to tissue fluid accumulation and internal toxicity. Clinically, these mechanisms explain why interventions aimed at improving colon hygiene and reducing mucus, such as dietary adjustments, appropriate cleansing methods, and periodic fasting, often produce noticeable improvements in respiratory and cardiovascular symptoms. Deeper breathing, more stable venous return, and mild reductions in blood pressure in cases of functional overload. Rehabilitation must address not only nutrition, but also restoration of diaphragm and lung mechanics through diaphragmatic breathing exercises, moderate physical activity to stimulate venous and lymphatic flow, adequate hydration to reduce fluid viscosity, and medical monitoring to rule out additional causes. Thus, restoring gastrointestinal clarity is not merely a digestive intervention, but a foundational step in rebuilding circulatory integrity. A multidimensional approach, both mechanical and biochemical, aimed at reducing cardiac burden and allowing the lungs to regulate the rhythm of life more effectively. The conclusions drawn from this analysis highlight a crucial shift in how health should be understood and approached. The circulatory system must be viewed as a coordinated network in which physiological factors such as respiration, thoracic pressure, and internal cleansing play foundational roles, rather than treating the heart as the sole cause of circulatory problems. The clinical and public health implications are significant. First, diagnosis and treatment should broaden to include evaluation of respiratory function, diaphragm mechanics, colon condition, and lymphatic flow as essential indicators. Interventions that focus solely on the heart may fail to achieve lasting improvement. Second, medical education should incorporate the interactions among thoracic pressure, diaphragm motion, and microcirculation, along with skills for assessing and restoring functional breathing, enabling future clinicians to adopt a systems-oriented perspective rather than an overly simplified cardiac model. Third, community health strategies should include not only traditional cardiovascular risk reduction, but also practices such as deep breathing, exercises that increase diaphragm range, diets low in mucus-forming foods, and programs that support digestive hygiene. These interventions can reduce circulatory burden in a sustainable way. Fourth, biomedical research should prioritize studies on respiratory pressure mechanisms in microcirculation, interactions between gut-derived toxins and plasma viscosity, and clinical trials examining how restoring respiratory dynamics affects blood pressure, heart rate, and cardiac function. Such research would provide empirical evidence to guide clinical practice. Finally, individuals seeking better health should adopt a holistic perspective. Vitality depends on the coordinated function of mechanical and biochemical systems. Effective self-care focuses on restoring and maintaining foundational elements, improving breathing, supporting diaphragm mobility, keeping the gut unobstructed, and reducing peripheral vascular load, rather than merely managing cardiac symptoms. Viewing the body through this lens reshapes treatment strategies and lays the groundwork for integrated preventive medicine aimed at reducing disease and enhancing long-term quality of life. The mechanism of life does not depend on a single structure, but on the coordination of multiple systems: respiration, circulation, elimination, and internal pressure regulation. Through this interconnected perspective, it becomes clear that the heart is not the supreme engine, but a regulator within a larger dynamic network. Breath and the lungs generate force, while the colon and elimination pathways determine the quality of the internal environment. A clean, unobstructed and efficiently breathing body reduces strain on the heart, optimizes circulation, and promotes natural regeneration. This mindset encourages a root-cause, whole-system approach rather than symptom-focused care. Remember that health begins with fundamentals: deep breathing, a clean gut, a flexible diaphragm, and a smooth internal flow. In practice, daily diaphragmatic breathing, reducing mucus-forming foods, and gentle movement to expand breath capacity and lower cardiac stress are simple yet highly effective steps. Which aspect of the body do you believe is most often overlooked yet profoundly affects overall health? Share your thoughts below. If you'd like more in-depth material, fill out the form in the description to receive a healing and wellness ebook. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video to support us in continuing to bring valuable content.